A struggling mechanic fixes a rich girl's flat tire for free, not knowing she's the CEO's daughter. The rain fell in sheets, a cold, gray curtain that blurred the edges of the world and turned the asphalt of the forgotten street into a shimmering black mirror. Inside Fidelity Auto, the last light of a dying day struggled through the grimy panes of the single large window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, hopeless ghosts. The single fluorescent tube overhead flickered with a weary buzz, a sound that had become the rhythm of Elias's own faltering heart. Each stutter in the light was a fresh stab of anxiety, a reminder of the final notice tucked into the frame of the office door, its red letters a glaring wound against the peeling paint. Past due, it screamed in silence. 30 days had become 60, 60 had become 90, and now, the end had arrived with the finality of this relentless autumn storm. Elias wiped his hands on a rag that was already stained beyond redemption. His hands, calloused and mapped with the fine black lines of ingrained grease, were the only things that felt truly his anymore. They knew the language of engines, the subtle complaints of a worn transmission, the precise torque needed for a lug nut. They were honest hands that had built a life, and now they were the hands that would have to dismantle it. He looked around the small garage, his sanctuary and his prison. Every tool had a story. The heavy socket wrench was a gift from his father, the man who had taught him that integrity was the most important tool in any box. The smaller, delicate screwdrivers were from his wife, Maria, a joke from their first anniversary because he was always losing his. A framed, faded photograph of her smile sat on his cluttered desk, the only source of unwavering warmth in the cavernous cold. She had been gone for 2 years, and with her, the luck and laughter of this place had seemed to drain away, leaving only the hollow echo of what used to be. The debt had piled up like dead leaves after she got sick, and he had been drowning ever since. He was tired, a deep, bone-aching weariness that had nothing to do with physical labor and everything to do with the slow, crushing weight of failure. Mr. Gable, the building's owner, had been clear during his last visit. No more extensions, no more promises. The money, all of it, by the 1st of the month or the locks would be changed. The 1st of the month was tomorrow. Elias's gaze drifted to the cash box. Inside lay $17.42. A fortune and an insult. Just then, a pair of brilliant white headlights cut through the deluge, sweeping across the garage's interior before coming to a stop just outside the open bay door. A car, sleek and silver and utterly out of place in this neighborhood of rust and decay, idled with a purr so quiet it was almost swallowed by the storm. He saw the hazard lights blinking, a frantic, rhythmic pulse. One of the front tires was completely, unequivocally flat. A young woman stepped out, holding a ridiculously small umbrella that did little to shield her from the wind-whipped rain. She was soaked in seconds, her expensive-looking coat clinging to her frame. She looked lost, vulnerable, and deeply frustrated. Elias felt a familiar, unwelcome pang of duty. He didn't have the time. He didn't have the energy. Helping her would change nothing about the eviction notice. Yet, the image of his father's disappointed face, a phantom of his own conscience, rose in his mind. You don't help people because of what you'll get, son. You help them because they need helping. With a sigh that seemed to empty his lungs of all remaining hope, Elias pushed himself off the stool and walked toward the rain, toward the stranger, his worn boots splashing in the growing puddles. Her name was Clara, and her voice was tight with anxiety. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she said, her eyes wide and scanning the dim, cluttered interior of his garage as if she'd stumbled into another century. "My phone is dead. My GPS sent me through this area, and this happens," she gestured helplessly at the flat tire. "Do you take credit cards? I don't have any cash on me." Elias looked from her distressed face to the ruined tire, then to the $17 in his cash box. The logical part of his brain, the part that was screaming about survival, told him to quote her a high price. An emergency call-out in this weather for a car like that? He could probably ask for $200 and get it. It wouldn't be enough to save him, but it would be something. It would be a meal, a tank of gas, a small cushion for the hard fall that was coming. But then he saw the genuine fear in her eyes, the way she clutched her purse like a shield. She wasn't an inconvenience. She was a person in trouble. The kind of person Maria would have immediately offered a cup of hot tea and a warm blanket. "Don't you worry about that," Elias heard himself say, the words leaving his mouth before he could stop them. "Let's get you out of this rain. Pull the car in." She looked at him, surprised. "Really? But I need to pay you." "The jack and the tire iron work for free," he said, offering a small, tired smile. "It's just a spare. It won't take long. No charge." The disbelief on her face slowly softened into gratitude. She nodded, got back into her car, and carefully navigated it into the relative dryness of the bay. As Elias set to work, the familiar motions soothed the frantic buzzing in his head. He located the jack points, loosened the lug nuts with the four-way wrench from his father, and raised the vehicle. The storm raged outside, but within the small circle of light cast by his work lamp, there was only the task at hand. Clara stood nearby, watching him. She had taken off her drenched coat and wrapped a thin sweater tighter around herself, but she was still shivering. "You're very kind," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the drumming rain. Elias grunted as he broke a particularly stubborn nut free. "Just doing my job." "No," she insisted. "This is more than a job. I don't know what I would have done. You could have taken advantage of the situation." He paused and looked up at her, his worn face illuminated from below. "What kind of man would that make me?" He didn't say it as a challenge, but as a simple statement of fact. He finished mounting the small donut spare, tightening the nuts in a star pattern just as his father had taught him, ensuring it was secure. He checked the pressure, adding a bit of air from the noisy compressor in the corner. As he worked, she took in the details of the shop. She saw the meticulous arrangement of the tools on the pegboard, clean and in their proper places. She saw the worn-out but neatly swept concrete floor. And she saw the photo of the smiling woman on the desk. She saw a place that was loved, even if it was failing. "All set," Elias said, lowering the car and giving the tire a final, firm kick. "Now this is just a spare. Don't go too fast and don't go too far. Get that tire repaired or replaced first thing in the morning." "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Truly. Thank you." She reached for her purse again, but he held up a greasy hand. "I told you, no charge. Just be safe out there." She hesitated, then nodded. As she was about to get into her car, a hulking black pickup truck pulled up, blocking the entrance. The driver's side door opened and a large man in a damp suit unfolded himself from the cab. Mr. Gable. His face, perpetually soured, seemed to curdle even further as he took in the scene. The gleaming luxury car, the well-dressed young woman, and Elias. Well, Elias," Gable boomed, his voice oozing with false geniality. "Looks like business is picking up. Finally got a customer who can pay. I see." He eyed Clara's car like a vulture sizing up a meal. Elias's body went rigid. A hot flush of shame and anger washed over him. "This isn't a good time, Mr. Gable." "Oh, I think it's the perfect time," the landlord sneered, stepping into the garage and bringing the damp chill of the night with him. He ignored Clara completely, focusing his predatory gaze on Elias. "The first is tomorrow. I don't suppose your rich friend here is going to cover the 3 months of back rent you owe me? Or are you just giving your services away for free again?" He laughed, a short, ugly bark. Clara looked from Gable's smug face to Elias's pale, set jaw. She could feel the tension, the raw humiliation radiating from the kind man who had just helped her. "I was just leaving," Elias said, his voice low and steady, a clear warning. He put himself slightly between Gable and Clara. "We can talk about this tomorrow." "There's nothing to talk about." Gable's voice rose. "I want my money, $6,000. Or these doors are padlocked at 9 a.m. sharp. Maybe you can sell some of this old junk to make a down payment." He gestured dismissively at the tools on the wall, the tools that were Elias's entire life and legacy. Elias's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Every instinct screamed at him to lash out, to defend his dignity, but he held it in. For Maria's memory, for the quiet code he lived by, he simply met Gable's gaze. "You'll have to do what you have to do, Mr. Gable." The simple, defeated dignity in his words seemed to infuriate Gable more than any argument would have. "You're a fool, Elias, a soft-hearted, broke fool. And tomorrow, you'll be a homeless one, too with that." He turned, shot a contemptuous look at Clara, and lumbered back to his truck, driving off into the rain with a spray of muddy water. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. Elias couldn't bring himself to look at Clara. The shame was a physical weight on his shoulders. He had been exposed, his failure laid bare for a stranger to see. "I am so sorry," Clara whispered. Elias finally turned to her, his face a mask of weary resignation. "It's not your fault. He's not wrong." He walked over to his desk and picked up the photograph of Maria, wiping a smudge from the glass with his thumb. This was it, the end. He might as well start packing. There was nothing left to fight for. The flickering light above finally gave up, sputtering out and plunging the garage into near darkness, lit only by the silver car's headlights from the bay. Felt like a sign. Clara watched him, her heart aching. She saw the profound despair in the slump of his shoulders. She'd come here as a stranger with a simple problem, and had stumbled into the final act of a quiet tragedy. But as she looked at the mechanic, standing in the ruins of his life yet still radiating a core of unshakable decency, an idea began to form. It was a long shot, a wild hope, but her father had always taught her something, too. "Honor, Clara," he used to say, "is not about what you have. It's about what you do when you have nothing left." She needed an excuse. "Oh, my goodness," she said, her voice a little too bright. "I think in all the commotion, I left my scarf." It was a lie. Her scarf was in her coat pocket. Elias looked up, confused by the triviality of her concern in the face of his ruin. "Your scarf?" "Yes, a blue one. It's very important to me. Could I just look for it?" He nodded numbly, gesturing to the small, grimy waiting area. "Be my guest." While she pretended to search, she pulled out her new, fully charged phone from her bag. She'd had a spare portable charger. She'd lied about that too. She needed to see what he would do when he thought no one could help him. His reaction had told her everything. She quickly typed a long, detailed message, her thumbs flying across the screen. She described the garage, the man, his kindness, the landlord, the debt, the eviction. She described the worn tools and the photo of the smiling woman. She hit send, her heart pounding. "I can't seem to find it," she said, turning back to him. "I must have lost it somewhere else." She walked toward him, stopping in front of his desk. $6,000. He nodded, not meeting her eyes. "And change." "Elias," she said, using his name for the first time. He looked up, surprised she had heard it. "My father runs a company, a logistics company, Valor Group." The name was vaguely familiar. He'd seen their trucks on the highway, big, new, clean, a world away from his little garage. "That's nice," he said, the words empty. He always said that a person's character is their most valuable asset, that integrity is worth more than any balance sheet. She met his gaze, her own eyes clear and determined. "You have more character in your little finger than that man has in his entire body. I won't forget what you did for me tonight." He gave her a sad smile. "Kindness doesn't pay the rent, miss." "Maybe not," she said, "but sometimes it should." She thanked him again and left, driving the silver car with its mismatched wheel off into the stormy night. Elias was left alone in the darkness, the landlord's threats echoing in the empty space, the faint scent of her perfume a strange, ghostly presence. He didn't feel any hope. He felt nothing but the cold certainty of the end. He spent the rest of the night sorting his tools, deciding what little he could carry with him when he left for the last time. The morning arrived gray and unforgiving. The rain had stopped, but the sky was a heavy, oppressive lid of bruised-looking clouds. Elias sat on a stool in the open bay door, drinking a cup of bitter, black coffee. He hadn't slept. He was just waiting. 9 a.m. Gable would be here with the sheriff, and it would all be over. He had packed a small box with Maria's picture, his father's wrench, and a change of clothes. The rest would be lost. At 8:55 a.m., he heard the rumble of engines. Not Gable's loud pickup, but something else. Something bigger. A fleet. He stood up as one, then two, then 5 large, immaculate white box trucks pulled up, lining the street in front of his garage. On the side of each was a bold, blue logo, Valor Group. Doors opened and men in clean, professional uniforms began to get out. Elias stood frozen, confused. Was this some kind of mistake? Then, a black sedan pulled up behind the trucks. A man in a tailored suit stepped out of the passenger side. And from the driver's side, Clara emerged, looking calm and purposeful in the morning light. "Elias," she said, walking toward him with a warm smile. "I believe you've met my father's company." The man in the suit extended a hand. "Elias Vance? My name is Arthur Sterling. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Valor Group. Miss Claremont here," he gestured to Clara, "told her father, our CEO, about her experience last night." Elias was speechless, his mind struggling to connect the dots. The rich girl, the CEO's daughter, Clara Claremont. "My father was moved by your integrity, Mr. Vance," Clara said gently. "In the face of such pressure, you chose to be kind to a stranger. He believes that is the kind of character our company should be built on." Sterling cleared his throat. "All business. As of 8:30 this morning, Valor Group is the new owner of this property. We purchased it outright from Mr. Gable." He was highly motivated to sell. A flicker of a smile crossed his lips. "Your outstanding debt is considered forgiven. Furthermore, we are prepared to offer you a 5-year, exclusive contract to service our entire regional fleet of 74 vehicles. We will, of course, provide a complete upgrade of your garage equipment and facilities to handle the workload. If you'll have us." Elias stared at them, the words washing over him but not sinking in. Forgiven, contract, upgrade. It was too much. He felt his knees weaken. At that moment, Gable's pickup truck screeched to a halt down the street. He stormed toward them, his face purple with rage, a locksmith and a sheriff's deputy trailing uncertainly behind him. "What is the meaning of this? This is my property. I'm having this man evicted," Gable bellowed, pointing a thick finger at Elias. Sterling turned to him with an icy calm. "Actually, Mr. Gable, it's our property now. The paperwork has been filed. I believe you have an appointment with our legal team this afternoon to finalize the transfer of funds. Now, if you'll excuse us, Mr. Vance and I have a contract to sign." "You are trespassing." Gable's jaw dropped. He looked from the impassive face of the COO to the fleet of trucks, to Clara, and finally to Elias, who was just now beginning to understand the magnitude of what was happening. Defeated and utterly humiliated, Gable turned without another word and retreated to his truck, the locksmith and deputy watching the scene with wide-eyed disbelief. The community, the other shop owners who had watched Elias struggle, were now peering out of their own doors, witnessing the impossible reversal of fortune. Within hours, the transformation began. The Valor Group team, efficient and professional, swarmed the garage. Old, failing equipment was moved out. New, state-of-the-art lifts, diagnostic computers, and tool chests were brought in. A sign painter arrived and began carefully sketching a new name on the old, faded sign, Fidelity and Valor Auto. Through it all, Clara stayed. She wasn't a CEO's daughter giving orders. She was a partner. She brought Elias coffee, discussed layout plans with him, and listened as he spoke, for the first time in years, about his dreams for the shop. He told her about Maria, about his father, about the meaning of the name Fidelity. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a man being seen for who he truly was. A new family was being forged in the organized chaos of renewal, one built not on blood, but on a shared belief in decency. 6 months later, the garage was unrecognizable. Warm, bright light spilled out of the new bay doors, a beacon on the now bustling street. The shop was immaculate, a testament to precision and care. Elias, wearing a clean new uniform with the co-branded logo over his heart, was no longer alone. He was mentoring 2 young apprentices from the neighborhood, teaching them not just how to fix cars, but how to do so with honor. His hands were still covered in grease, but the lines of worry on his face had been replaced by a quiet, confident smile. Clara was a permanent fixture, stopping by several times a week. She'd bring lunch, or just sit in the new, comfortable office and do her own work, soaking in the atmosphere of honest labor and earned success. She had become his friend, his confidant, the sister he never had. They had saved each other, he from a storm, and she from a world where she thought kindness had no real value. One afternoon, as they watched one of the apprentices perfectly balance a tire, she turned to him. "You know," she said, "that night, you could have charged me anything you wanted." Elias nodded, wiping his hands on a clean rag. He looked around his thriving garage, at the young people he was now able to give a chance to, at the photo of Maria that sat proudly on his new desk, forever smiling. He looked at the life that had been born from his darkest hour. "Yes," he said, his voice full of a deep, resonant peace. "But it would have cost me everything, for in that moment of choosing character over currency, he had not lost his business. He had found its true worth.